Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Matthew Resnay, CEO and founder of Prospect Future, a marketing and operations agency dedicated to helping businesses grow. Welcome to On the Reg. This is a podcast for business owners, marketers, entrepreneurs, leaders, and really anyone looking to enhance their digital productivity. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about whether or not marketing agencies are dead. With advancements in AI, automation, and massive changes to customer privacy, this makes marketing a lot harder and makes brands wondering whether or not they still need their agency. So, on today's episode, we're going to be answering the question of, do I still need my marketing agency? As a marketing agency, what can I do to better evolve to serve my clients? And as a brand, what do I need to do to stay ahead of the competition? Let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so what's actually happening? We have massive changes to AI and automation. OpenAI launched ChatGPT and is eventually going to launch Sora. We have Google Gemini, and effectively this makes it so that people who are not professional marketers can much more easily do market research. They can ask for marketing strategy, and on top of that, they can create marketing assets like content, imagery, and video, all with the help of AI. Additionally, we have platforms like Google, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat that are saying, hey, we have these massive sets of data from customers over the last 10, 15 years, and we know what is most impactful for getting businesses the results they're looking for. So instead of you dictating, hey, here are the inputs I want, here's the targeting I want to utilize, here's who I want to show to, and here are the outcomes I want, Google is saying, hey, ignore all those initial things, right? Just tell us the outcome and the budget that you're looking for, and we'll take care of the rest. And realistically, this is a really dangerous game. They're making it so that marketing data is a black box. You have to blindly trust these companies with your budget and hope that they're putting them in areas that are going to be most effective for you. So Google has Performance Max, Facebook has Advantage Plus campaigns, and what they're doing is, hey, don't worry about the targeting. Throw in your assets, throw in your creative, tell us your outcome, tell us what your budget is, and we're going to put it in front of the people that matter the most, that are going to give you the best possible outcome. But we're not going to actually tell you what's happening, give you the data or insight into what's going on, because this has to do with customer privacy. This has to do with our proprietary algorithm. So we can't really showcase that information to you. And this leaves marketers in the dark, and it leaves brands wondering, hey, do I even need my marketer anymore? Because I can just throw these inputs in the platform and Google's going to take care of the rest. But this is crazy dangerous because you're effectively trusting your entire business growth to these mega corporations. And what is the number one thing that they want? They want more revenue. And so there have been many studies, a lot of research that shows that with adoption of these new platforms and these smart campaigns that Google, Facebook, they're taking advantage of their customers by showing placements and ads in areas that aren't actually beneficial, but instead are just sucking budget. And what they can do to offset this is they'll basically get you more conversions, but a lot of those conversions are fake, they're spam, and it makes it way, way, way harder to train the algorithm when they dictate who the audience is, and oftentimes that audience can give you bad conversion data. So today we're going to be talking a little bit more about like what can we do to offset that and why it's so dangerous. So one of the big things is removing control and just saying just trust us is not a viable option for marketers and brands, because marketers and brands still need to have control over what they're trying to accomplish, right? More and more, brands need to have authentic brand values, brand mission statements, and brand content to separate them from the competition. Because if you lean into an algorithm that says, hey, we're going to find the best for you, what makes that strategy any different from your competitors who also have the same product and maybe slightly different unique selling propositions? If Google is saying, hey, for all plumbers, we're going to put you in front of the right audience with the right messaging, using automated asset creation, using automated targeting, using automated imagery, well, that effectively means that you're just going to blend in with what your competitors have. And we'll discuss, like, yes, obviously your sales process, your tracking, your website, how all of those can impact the end result. But at the end of the day, if Google is basically choosing all these things for you, you're going to blend in with the rest. And that's not good for your business. With what we're dealing with now, it's basically the equivalent of, hey, yeah, I'm going to order a supreme pizza, but once I get this supreme pizza in, I'm going to remove the mushrooms, I'm going to remove the bell peppers, I'm going to remove the tomatoes because I really only wanted these certain ingredients on the pizza. So instead of ordering those ingredients outright, which is what marketers used to be able to do, we used to be able to dictate keywords, we used to be able to dictate assets and imagery, we used to be able to dictate placements and targeting. Google's saying, hey, you don't get to do all those things anymore because we're going to give you cost savings, which is the same as ordering a supreme pizza, right? You get the cost savings of ordering something that's already on the menu rather than crafting a bespoke pizza for yourself. But you also have to effectively remove all the slop. So instead of proactive marketing, which is what we used to be able to do, a lot of it's reactive marketing now. So how do we go from reactive back to proactive? And there's two major things that we should be considering. We should be considering branding and we should be considering operations. Why are marketers still relevant even if they don't consider branding and operations or evolve to branding and operations? And an easy parallel here is, would you go to court without having a lawyer? That's the same as, would you work with Google, Facebook, these mega corporations without having an expert behind you? One of the biggest reasons is budget, right? These platforms do not care about your budget. You are just another number to them. That is the truth. So when you're working with these platforms, you need to be working with someone who understands how your budget is being utilized, how to diversify your overall strategy so that you're spending budget on multiple platforms and basically hedging your bets, right? And then also understand that these platforms don't have your best interests at heart, right? When they have these auto apply recommendations, when they have the ability to create assets on your behalf, when they say, hey, you need to be working towards this optimization score or you need to lean into the algorithm, someone who's not savvy enough will say, hey, oh yeah, this makes sense. They know what they're doing, right? But a marketer will say, hey, a lot of these things aren't actually benefiting you. We know for a fact that a lot of placements like the audience network, oftentimes stories, oftentimes reels, aren't the best channel for your business to be running if you want to do performance-based marketing. And there obviously is a very large difference between brands, small businesses with a smaller budget versus mega brands like Adidas, Nikes, what have you. But that doesn't mean that whether you're on the end of the spectrum where you have a large budget and can go for brand awareness, or where you're on the bottom of the spectrum where yes, you're still doing brand awareness, but you should be focused on performance-based marketing. That doesn't mean that like you should still be throwing budget away, right? So this is where a marketer can come in, just like a lawyer in a courtroom can come in and advise you and say, hey, yeah, okay, maybe you're not guilty, but that doesn't mean you should be talking to the cops, right? That doesn't mean you should be confessing everything. This is a scenario where we need to make sure that every action we're taking is very pointed so that we can get the desired outcome that we're looking for. Marketing needs to be holistic. We need to be focusing on whether or not you're covering all of your bases. And I think marketing agencies have had this mindset of, all right, let's do everything, but not do it well. A lot of business owners are getting kind of disillusioned from that and saying, hey, we should have an expert agency in each of these areas. But what's happening is with these platforms removing more and more control, you do need to be a holistic marketing agency. You can't have siloed platforms or siloed data or siloed strategies, because when you remove a lot of the inputs and targeting you can provide, that means that your core focus needs to be on the overall strategy of the brand, right? If you trust Facebook and Facebook says, hey, you should be spending $500 a day minimum, which is what most of these platforms recommend at a minimum, that's just not reasonable, especially if you know that you should be working with multiple platforms, because at any point Facebook can make new guidelines that says, hey, your business can't say these words, or we can't market your business, or hey, your audience just doesn't work for us anymore, whatever it might be. So you need to have a diverse strategy. And if you have an expert in each channel, then you're effectively making it so that you're no longer able to have this holistic strategy that is best for your business, right? All right. So what does this actually look like? This looks like better branding. Better branding starts with better messaging. So you can't just be a marketing agency that focuses on campaign management anymore. You need to be advising your clients on what they should be doing to have better branding. When we know that some of the only inputs that we have left are your ad copy, your imagery, and your videos, you can't do the targeting or any of those other things anymore. That means your branding needs to be the foundation of all the marketing that you're doing. Realistically, that's how it always should have been, but you could have gotten away with not having done that before. So now the core tenet of branding is messaging, right? Do you fully understand who your customers are and what your customers want? That starts with messaging first. It does not start with your logo. It does not start with your website. It starts with, what am I going to be saying to my customers? Why is this important? And whether you're a product or a service, it doesn't matter. Realistically, your messaging is the number one thing you should be focusing on. Second, brand consistency. Now, this is where your logo comes in. This is where your brand colors come in, your font, your imagery, your videos. They need to be seamless. If Google is showing the same plumber or the same e-commerce ads to all the same customers with the exact same strategy, because realistically, all of your competitors want the same outcomes you want. Maybe they have different budgets, but Google is going to treat them relatively similarly. If they're showing these to them, you need to have such strong brand consistency that you stand apart from the competition. Your unique selling proposition is going to come across in your ad copy. It's also going to come across in your imagery and video. And if you have consistent colors, consistent design, and a consistent brand overall, you're going to be able to adapt to the way these platforms are changing. Now, one of the direct ways that traffic is going to be moving from platforms is obviously your website. So you have the vast majority of your control is going to be on your website, right? They go from Facebook, and yes, they can purchase on Facebook Shop or reach out to you there. But when they get to your website, that's where you have way more control. You can craft that customer journey. You can create a funnel where you walk them through the steps to actually reaching out to you or purchasing. And so your website needs to be bulletproof. It needs to be your online salesperson. Next, first-party data. So with all of these changes, whether it's AI, whether it's a cookieless future and customer privacy, the absolute number one thing that is by far the biggest standout that any marketer should tell you is what you should be focusing on is first-party data, because that makes it so that you can lean back in and provide data to these platforms so that they can understand your customers better. If they're removing targeting capabilities, but you have a massive customer list, you can import that back in. But on top of that, like we said, if you have a diversified strategy and some of these platforms drop off, if you have that customer data directly, you don't need to rely on the Facebook or on the Google. And so first party data, where that typically is going to come from, it's going to come from your CRM or your email list, right? If you're getting newsletter signups, if you're building your email list, if you're building your customer database, that is first party data that you own and you can control. On top of that first party data, you should be looking at zero party data. So zero party data is where you're actively asking your customers more details about themselves. This could be, hey, what's your birth date? Or what are the products that you're interested in? So this effectively turns a CRM into a CDP, a customer data platform. And the more you enhance your CDP with zero party data and first party data, the more you're going to be protected as different platforms shift, because you're going to have direct access to your customer information and you can feed that back into these platforms so that you can target them, you could remarket them, you could do a lot of additional things. So email is not dead. It has never been dead. Anyone who's told you that email is dead is out of their mind. And whether or not you yourself feel that you purchase off of email or use your email, it doesn't matter. Your own sentiment is not what matters here. What matters here is that first-party data and email is one of the few things that you can control as a brand when it comes to marketing for the foreseeable future, right? All right. Now, a lot of people are wondering, all right, what about organic social media? What about organic search? We have more control over that, right? Well, no, because the algorithm changes, right? With both of those things. The algorithm is going to change with search. So whether you're doing trending music or trending topics on social, that's going to come and go. And eventually you're basically going to be on a hamster wheel if you're constantly looking at doing that. Same with organic search. Yes, there are ways you can get ahead there. You provide the best possible value for your customers, and Google will reward you, Microsoft will reward you. But at the end of the day, you're still beholden to what their algorithms dictate. And if Google is shifting towards AI generated top content, then guess what happens? Instead of it being ads, knowledge graph, maybe a map, and then organic search, it's going to be AI generated answer, ads, knowledge graph, map, organic search. And organic search is going to be so far buried that the benefit to your business is going to be dramatically reduced from what it was 10 years ago. So you can't just rely on social media. You can't just rely on organic search. You need to rely on this first party data and making sure that you're creating brand awareness and a brand presence in as many channels as possible. One other thing I want to address when it comes to brands is that a lot of marketers who are very young in their career or people who don't fully understand marketing are going to say, all right, well, we don't have that much control, so why don't we just partner with influencers who have a big platform, they can reach a large audience, and if they're in our niche, we can have super targeted ads to our niche. That's not a bad strategy, but it should not be your core strategy. And frankly, influencer-based marketing is one of the most expensive channels for marketing that you can have. And again, it needs to be cycled out because you're relying on relevancy, you're relying on goodwill, you're relying on basically getting in front of people that are not your customers, but are someone else's, and hoping that they relate to what your product or your service is. So while influencer-based marketing is smart, it's not something you can rely on. All right. So we covered branding, we covered budget, and then the next thing we want to cover is operations. So marketing agencies, they need to evolve to have better operations consulting for their customers. This is a non-negotiable. You can be a branding agency, but eventually customers are going to realize like, hey, there's only so much that I can accomplish with all of these assets, this imagery, this brand identity, right? I need to understand how the data connects and how the actual customer lifecycle looks like. So what it's looked like historically is marketing agencies would put them into these different buckets, right? You'd have a branding agency. You might have a holistic agency that tries to do every service. But what happens is when you generate the lead or when your branding is effective, what happens next, right? You need to make sure that your customers are actually closing these deals. And what that starts with is often sales enablement and a CRM. You need to make sure that your leads and your marketing data is properly tracking throughout the entire process so that your customers can see, hey, this is where this person came from. This is a marketing qualified lead, sales qualified lead, or I can see all these different touch points or this information about them, and I can bring it to fruition. So if you're not advising your customers on, hey, this is how your sales cycle should look like, or these are how all of your digital tools should be communicating with each other, or hey, automation is absolutely massive these days, right? If you're still on pen and paper or you're still on spreadsheets, this is costing your business time and money. It's also making your customer experience significantly worse because you have more friction in your own process, which creates delays in communication, which creates delays in fulfillment and delivery. Well, that's not good. So marketing agencies should be advising all of their customers on branding. They should be advising all of their customers on operations. And if they don't have those skill sets, they need to learn them because this is the future. When we have less and less control over what we can do in each individual advertising platform, yes, we can advise on budget, but outside of that, the only two outputs left are branding and then operations. Operations being fulfillment, operations being how your website communicates data to your sales team, operations being, all right, what happens with the customer after we've actually completed the work order or after we've actually sold them the goods? Do we follow up with them? Do we get a review? Do we get a referral? Do we create a system so that we can get so much more word of mouth because they're so thrilled with the customer experience that we gave them? All of these things are absolutely critical for how marketing agencies should evolve. I covered a lot, but in my mind, this is how the marketing industry is going to be adapting and evolving. Yes, business owners can leverage AI tools to do better, but you still need an expert in your corner. And hopefully your experts understand the writing on the wall and that they need to be focusing more and more on branding. They need to be focusing more and more on operations and digital automation so that they can stay alive and their customers can do better than the competition. That is the name of the game. I know this episode was a little bit chaotic, but frankly, this was like 40 takes that it took me to get this done. So I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you had some insight into what I see is the future of marketing. And obviously, if you have any questions, please let me know. If you need marketing help or guidance, reach out to my agency, Prospect Future, and please like and subscribe. I hope to see y'all around more.